Hey there, I'm back with another convention report. This one's a little late, sorry. I did MarsCon 2 weeks ago. It's Monday, January 28th, and MarsCon was, well, the 18th through 20th, so a little over a week ago. Yeah, I should have recorded this last weekend, but I didn't feel like it, so sorry. But we're getting to it now. This is my first MarsCon, and I really enjoyed it. I was familiar with the hotel and familiar with a fair number of the people who attend the con and present at the con because it shares a hotel with RavenCon in Williamsburg. Needless to say, MarsCon is also therefore in Williamsburg. So I'm not doing RavenCon this year. I still love the con. I'll definitely be back. It's a great little show. But I wanted to try MarsCon, and Williamsburg is not a big enough city for me to drive 5 hours each way and spend 2 nights in a hotel twice a year, unless somebody's covering my travel or shit like that. So I decided to give MarsCon a shot. Had a great time. I think there were probably about 1,500 people there. I know I saw the highest number I saw on a badge was 1,292. So I'm guessing there were 1,600 people, which is a really good attendance for a 3-day fandom con of that size. Its focus, it's like a lot of the conventions I go to. It's a lot like a Logicon, Congregate, Con Carolinas, RavenCon. It has a writing track, it has some performances, it has some fun tracks, it has fandom tracks. They brought me up to talk about writing stuff. So Patrick Dugan, who's one of my some superhero novels, Stormforged, he rode up with me because none of my usual suspects were available for this trip. So he came over to the house. We rolled out of here about 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Got up there a little after 1. It was right at 5 hours door to door. And most of the trip was great. It's an easy drive to get from Charlotte to Williamsburg. You just go up 85, Greensboro, Raleigh, nothing. Richmond, nothing. Tree-lined, nothing. Tree-lined, nothing. Shitload of state troopers, nothing. Williamsburg. So the first 4 hours and 15 minutes were great, and the last 45 were like, oh, Jesus Christ, am I ever going to get out of these woods? We even remarked on it as we were driving that it had been a really smooth trip, but that last little bit was like, I just want to be there. Because 4 hours, 5 hours is a weird length of time. We stopped at about, I guess we stopped north of Greensboro maybe, take a leak, get a drink, that kind of crap. And then you don't want to stop again, because 3 hours you don't super have to pee, but you've been in the car a total of 5 hours and you're really tired of being in the car. But you got to load in the booth, so you don't want to stop for a whole lunch. So you just kind of bulldoze through, and by the time you get there, you're cranky and pissy and really want to be out of the car. And that's how we arrive at Williamsburg. Yay! Nah, it was fine. Melissa MacArthur and Jason Gilbert met us up there to help load in the show and build the booth. And when I say load in and help build the booth, what I really mean is Jason, Patrick, and I throw a bunch of crap on the cart. I push the cart into the building and then stay the hell out of the way while Melissa lays it out however she wants to. If Teresa's there, then Melissa and Teresa lay it out however they want to. I'm not the guy with the eye for pretty booth design. I would just throw a bunch of shit on the table and walk away. So I just throw a bunch of shit on the floor in front of the table and walk away, and they take care of it. So I wandered around, saw some people, chatted with Patty and Joan from Aurealis Books. They were with us the weekend before at Illogicon in Raleigh, and then here they were again. Then went over to see Chris Kennedy with Chris Kennedy Publishing. I know, original name. Kind of like all my social media accounts are John Hartness. But Chris publishes some killer military science fiction, so if you're into mechs and bugs shooting mechs and bugs wearing mechs and pew pew pew, zoom, check him out. Chris Kennedy Publishing. Publishes a lot of great people, publishes a lot of great books. Can't say enough good things about the guy. But don't, like, tell him I said anything nice. We can't be ruining my reputation now. So, came back. My first panel wasn't until 8 o'clock at night. The dealer room on Friday was open until 9 p.m., which is a good long time. So, I think they brought pizza. Yeah. This is something cool. MarsCon does this too. Friday nights, both of these conventions feed the dealers, which is fantastic. Because if you're a one-person show or a two-person show and you've got panels, you may not have time to get food until after the dealer room closes. And if you're scheduled like I am, well, I had an 8 o'clock and a 9 o'clock, and the dealer room closed at 9. So I left the dealer room a little before 8 and wasn't going to have a chance to eat until 10. I'm fat. I don't know if you've noticed, because you think the camera adds 10 pounds and I've got like 50 cameras pointing at me. No, I really am fat. So I like to eat. I don't like this bullshit about waiting until 10 o'clock to eat. This is probably going to be a short video because I'm getting hungry just thinking about wanting to eat. So they fed us. They brought pizza. It was awesome. I love people that feed me. That's why I love people that buy my books, because buying my books lets me buy food. Anywho, my first panel was on powerless and cleanup crews, and it was me and Holly Harding and DJ McGuire. Right over here where I keep looking, I've got my schedule from the con up on the screen. So I'm going to actually be talking about most of my panels over the course of this little video. This one was talking about the impact of what it's like being a non-powered person in a superhero world. So I talked about one of my favorite comics, which is The Boys, which talks about that very thing. I talked about Wearing the Cape, which is a superhero novel series by Marion Harmon that addresses a lot of that as well. And DJ and Holly had some good points, and we had a nice panel. One thing that bugged me, and this happens at a lot of small cons, so if this is something you do, please stop. It's fucking annoying. There were a couple of folks in the panel that typically the way it works is there's 3 to 5 people up front at a table, and they talk about things, and then there's a time at the end for questions, and the people out there ask questions, and you raise your hand, and people call on you. And we had a couple of people who consistently just chimed in from the audience, which interrupts the flow of the people who are brought here to talk about this topic and makes us feel like, well, if you guys just want to have a conversation, why aren't we in the bar having a conversation? If we're going to do a panel, hang out, raise your hand, wait to be called on, so that you're not stepping on the panelists who are here to talk about these topics. And if it happens once or twice, no big deal. It's a thing. It happens. Sometimes people get excited and enthusiastic about something. But when it's the same person or 2 people who it's like they think they're on the panel, that's a little much. And this is my first time at this convention, so I don't know who the old timers are. I don't know who some of the non-writer guests are. I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, we'll get to questions and comments at the end. Shut up. But I really want to. And especially if I haven't had dinner or a drink yet, It's pretty irritating. So if you go to conventions and you feel the need to just suddenly go into a 5 minute explanation about why the thing is stronger than the Hulk, you're wrong, by the way. And don't. Please. There are some conventions, Congregate is one, that structure certain panels to be very interactive, and they list them like that in the program. If your convention doesn't do that, or this isn't one of those panels, let the people at the front of the room talk, and then, when it's time to open it up to the audience, then you say your piece. Everybody gets their turn, and the folks that have driven half a day to get there and are there for part of their job don't get pissed off. Other than that minor annoyance, the panel went pretty well. Right after that, I went to, I think the room was right next door, and I did the Writing in a Shared Universe panel, which felt eerily familiar. It felt eerily familiar because it was me and Tara Fulbright and Melissa MacArthur and Chris Kennedy. 3 of those 4 had been on a Writing in a Shared Universe panel 8 days prior at Illogicon, because Tara proposed it at both conventions and Melissa moderated it at both conventions. They were not the same panel because, 1, we added Chris, and 2, we added humans in the audience to interact and ask different questions. But it was kind of funny when Melissa literally asked us the same question she'd just asked us a little over a week before. So that was amusing. Then we went to the bar. Now, you've heard me say probably on some Writing Life panels or videos that business gets done in the bar. I'm not lying. And I'm not saying you go there and you get drunk. I'm not saying you go there and you buy drinks for everybody. I'm saying that that's a time that you can interact with people in a casual, relaxed setting and let them realize that they like you and want to do business with you. So, I'm going to be in the bar probably every evening at every con I'm at, because that's where work gets done. You don't have to drink to go to the bar. You can sit there with a ginger ale, you can sit there with a water, and nowadays nobody's going to think anything of it. Used to be if you were in a bar and you weren't drinking, we just assumed you were an alcoholic. But I was in theater and pretty much everyone was an alcoholic. Nowadays, some people just don't drink. Hell, half the time I don't drink because I got the gout, because fat, and beer makes my foot hurt. And I've never really been much for liquor. So if they don't have a cider I like, I'm probably just going to have a Coke. So you don't have to drink and get loaded in the bar to get work. But you do have to go and talk to people. You can call it networking if you really need to. But really you're just hanging out and meeting people. And you don't want to butt in on everybody's conversations. You just want to go and hang out. And if you liked somebody on a panel, walk up. And if they look like they're deep in conversation with somebody, then fuck off. But if they're open and it's a big circle of people and people are laughing, just come up and say, hey, I really enjoyed you on the panel and thought you were funny or whatever. And, you know, sometimes they'll just say, hey, sure, sit down, pull up a chair, hang out. And then you make friends. And that's kind of how that works, because people like to work with people they like. This hotel, although, you know, that's not fair. I was about to talk about the restaurant service at this hotel, in particular in Williamsburg, but that's not fair. Convention hotels are fucking slow for food service. They never ever believe the convention organizers when they tell them how many people are going to be eating in their facility. They never have enough staff, and they never have enough booze. So it's going to take a lot longer than it should to get your plate of wings and your beer. Just accept it. If you walk into a hotel restaurant during a convention and you expect to get your food and get out within an hour, you're not going to be happy with how it goes. Understand that it's going to take 2 to 3 times as long as it normally should, and then your expectations will be well managed. If you go in expecting to get, an appetizer and a drink and a check and be able to walk in, sit down, eat, order, eat, leave in 45 minutes, you're going to be pissed off because that's not going to happen. You might be there for 90 minutes. You might be there for 2 hours. They're not ready. No matter how often they do this convention, they're not ready. No matter how ready they've told the convention organizers they're going to be, they're not ready. And if somehow you get the one convention dining experience where the food and beverage staff are ready, congratulations, you found a fucking unicorn. You're a winner. Don't think it's going to happen twice. So go in expecting to take a long time and maybe pack a granola bar. I guess I turned in about midnight on Friday. I was pretty beat. Saturday, dealer room opened at 9. That sucked. I don't like getting to work at 9 when I'm at home. I often don't. I sure don't get showered and have pants on by 9 when I'm at home. So I was showered and dressed and breakfasted and at the dealer room at 9. Selling books. Some conventions have what they call an artist's alley, which is a space out in a hallway where either artists can share a table or artists can purchase a table and sell their books and not be in the dealer room. This is how Con Carolinas does it. Authors don't have tables in the dealer room. The dealer room is full with vendors who pay more for their spaces, and they need more space than just a 6-foot table and a tablecloth. I prefer to be in the dealer room because I have a lot of books. I've written a lot of books, I travel with a lot of my books, and I've published about twice as many as I've written now. So when we roll into a convention like MarsCon, we're rolling with 6 or 7 big plastic tubs full of books. I don't want to strike that shit every night. I want to be able to leave it in a secured room. MarsCon, the MarsCon and RavenCon Hotel has both. They have an artist alley and they have a dealer room. I've never done the artist alley because since I've been vending at these cons, I've had too much shit to, 1, fit on one table, and 2, carry back and forth each night. So I was in the dealer room. And several other authors were, like I said, Chris Kennedy and his small press were there. Leona Wasoker and her Scribbling Lion con bookstore were there. Several other authors were in the dealer room, and there were probably, I don't know, a dozen out in the artist's author's alley. It was kind of cool. My first panel on Saturday was on Westerns in science fiction and fantasy. I did go to that. Sorry, I forgot. Because I'm looking on the list at who was supposed to be on the panel, and I'm like, what? But then I remember that there were multiple people added to the panel at the last minute. So we had about I think we had 5 people on the panel. Maybe we had 15 or 20 in the room. It was a nice little panel. It was harmless. It was me and Margaret McGraw and Jason Gilbert and a couple of folks who I don't remember. Oh, J.D. Jordan and 1 or 2 people I don't remember because they aren't listed on the schedule ahead of time, and I don't remember them. So I've done this panel with Margaret several times. She was one of the editors on our Lawless Lands anthology that we produced in 2016, 17. in 2017. She was one of the editors on Tales of the Weird Wild West, where I had a story in 2015. It all kind of blurs together. So she and I have done this panel several times. I love her to death. She's fun to be on panels with. I don't remember anything being particularly harmful. A lot of people ragged on Cowboys versus Aliens. I haven't seen it, so I didn't have a whole lot to contribute there. The next panel was kind of a train wreck. It was called The Pitch. And I don't think it went well. I thought it was basically a shit show. There were three of us, a guy named Andrew Hiller, who has a couple of books that he has self-published, and he's run a newsroom, so he's accustomed to people pitching him news stories. And then we had Pam Kinney, who has been pitching a book. She's a writer. She has some self-published stuff, and she has a book that she has been pitching to agents and editors. And then there's me. I'm a publisher, and I'm an author who has successfully pitched a book to publishers. These weren't the right people to be on the panel. It should have been all agents and publishers to talk about what we're looking for with the pitch. It's not Andrew and Pam's fault that they were not what the audience was looking for. The audience was specifically looking for people to tell them how to pitch to an agent. All of us were fucking useless at that. I don't have an agent. I've never pitched face-to-face to an agent. I've sent like half a dozen queries to agents in my life. Pam has not successfully pitched to an agent, so she can't really talk very successfully about that, and Andrew hasn't pitched anything to an agent. So we didn't have anything that could actually give them what they wanted. We talked a little bit about the different kinds and sizes of pitches, elevator pitches, synopses, that kind of thing. I think that we probably imparted some decent information, but it was a panel that was poorly staffed. Jason Graves was there from Perspective Press. He would have been good to be on the panel. I don't know who all else would have been good to have. Probably Melissa. She receives pitches for us at Falstaff as well. Gray Reinhardt reads Slush for Baen Books, and he's very well versed in traditional publishing. He would have been good. So, yeah, that one wasn't very good. And it makes me feel bad when I'm on panels that aren't good. I feel partially responsible because I'm one of the three people in the front of the room. And I feel like the people that are sitting there aren't getting what they're paying for. So that kind of bummed me out. I don't like being on panels that I don't think are good. Then I went back and sold some shit. And we moved a lot of books at this convention. I really enjoyed the dealer room. We had 2 tables. Jason Gilbert had a little slot at the end. He doesn't have any books out with us yet. He's got a novella collection under contract. But since he lifted heavy shit for me and helped run food and all that for me all weekend, I gave him space on the table, and he sold a bunch of books off of our table. So yeah, we did real well. It was a good weekend overall sales-wise, which is always a plus. Then at 8 o'clock at night, I did a panel called the Delphic Oracle. Now, this is a panel I've done before at another con. I don't know where this panel started, but apparently it's a Southern convention thing. Maybe it's an everywhere convention thing. You get a bunch of guests, and you line them up, and the audience asks a question of the oracle, and you as the panel make up the oracle at Delphi. And your panelists answer the question one word at a time. So person A says one word, person B says another word, person C, person D, and then it loops back around. and you end up with some ridiculous shit, and it's just a funny haha hour, and it was pretty good. This wasn't the best one I've been on. It wasn't the worst one I've been on. It was pretty good. I'd give it a solid B. We got pretty silly, which is kind of the point, but our audience was very small. So it was the same people, and there was like 8 people in the room. So after 20 or 30 minutes, they know what the shtick is, and it kind of, the guild is off the lily at that point. You need a room full of people to make this happen. They were good panelists. It was me and Shawnee Small and Gray Reinhardt and a guy I had never met named David Joria, or Jariah. I'm sorry, David, if you ever see this, if I'm mispronouncing your name. I really am, but it's been 2 weeks and I'm terrible. Everybody was nice. Everybody was fun. I think we all had a good time. I think the audience had a good time. So it was fine. Then I went to the bar. I had already been to the bar once and not eaten. And then I went and did my panel, and the people who had ordered food when I left still hadn't gotten food when I came back. So I placed an order, and my food came out with their food. I warned you all about convention dining. It's always fucking allergy season in North Carolina, so I'm just going to take a Claritin right here while I record this. Glamorous, right? See? You can see the fucking glamorous box of Kleenex. The next morning, Sunday morning, my first panel was at 11. Dealer room opened at 9 again. Fortunately, since I drink less at cons now, because I got the gout, and I'm just getting cheaper as I get older, I think. I wasn't hungover, so I could be at the dealer room at 9 selling books. I had an 11 a.m. panel on writing comedy with Andrew again, and Nikki Jameson, and Jason Gilbert, and a guy named David Lee, who I didn't know before. I mean, I didn't know Andrew before the day before, but he's a nice guy. I enjoyed dealing with him, being on a couple of panels with him. We were talking about writing comedy, and I write a little comedy. See? Product placement. Funny shit. Not safe for work. Not safe for anything. So, we did a writing comedy panel. It was good. It was pretty well attended. I didn't have any panels at this con with the guest of honor, which was a little bit of a bummer. One of the reasons mid-list authors like myself want to be on panels with the guest of honor or with the biggest selling authors at the convention is we want more eyeballs and on our work. And the best way to do that is to be on the panels that are going to be the biggest draws. Typically, those are the panels with your guest of honor on there. I didn't have any of those. It seemed like they put Shannon on only zombie or fairy panels, and most of the stuff I write with zombies and fairies is comedy, and I play real fast and loose with rules and research. So I'd drive her batshit on a panel about that stuff anyway. But generally, my panels were only okay attendance, so that kind of sucked. The next panel was on the commercialization of conventions. And this is another one where we had a guy in the room who really had one agenda and really wanted to be on the panel because he really felt the need to get his points across about how commercial conventions are not a bad thing. Well, nobody was saying that they were a bad thing. But he talked more than probably any of the 3 people on the panel did, and that's not how it's supposed to go. We also didn't have an official moderator, and none of the 3 of us know the con well enough to know if he is someone that is close with the folks that run the convention, so we don't know if we could tell him to shut up, that we get it, or not, because you don't want to tell the wrong person's best friend or spouse or college roommate, hey, shut your cake hole. We're up here trying to work. Because that's a real good way to not get invited back to a convention. So the panel itself was fine. It was me and James Fulbright, who's one of the heads of Congregate, and Michael Pedersen, who's the head of RavenCon. And I attend more cons than any human being really should. And now that I'm running Contagion, I have a couple of unique viewpoints on this. And it was fine. It was also kind of poorly attended because it's kind of an inside baseball topic. Those of us who put on conventions are very interested in talking about it. But the only other people who are very interested in talking about it are people who are pissed off about that kind of thing. But it was fine. Dealer room closed at 3. We went over to... I can't remember the name of it. There's a really good seafood joint right around the corner from the hotel, and it opens at 4 on Sunday. So if you're going to RavenCon, it doesn't open until 4 on Sunday. We stood out in the parking lot last April for 15 minutes because it didn't open until 4 on Sunday. This time we rolled into the parking lot at 4, so boop, right in. Had a good dinner, rode home. Got home about, took forever to get home. I think it was probably 11. It took probably 6 hours to get home for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, I think we stopped twice to piss on the way home instead of once going up, but I don't know. Just seemed to take longer. I did enjoy my first MarsCon. It was a significant enough revenue generating convention to make it worth attending again. I'll be happy to go back. They have a really good guest of honor next year. Scott Lynch is their guest of honor for 2019. He wrote one of my favorite fantasy books called Lies of Locke Lamora. So I'm going to apply for a guest spot and apply for a dealer room spot and hopefully be back at MarsCon next year. And then we'll see about RavenCon, because if they have a great guest, I do kind of want to go back to RavenCon, because I don't want Michael to think I don't love him, because he's a great dude and it's a great con. So I might do Williamsburg twice next year. I don't know. We'll see. Then this past Saturday, I did the Heroes MiniCon here in Charlotte at the Grady Cole Center. This is a straight up Comic Con. I had a 6-foot artist table and filled it full of books and just slung paper at people. I do all of these that I can that cost me little to no money. I'm really cutting back on the ones where I have to pay more than, say, $50 for a table. If I would really like to cut back on all the ones that I have to pay anything for a table. Because last year, they just weren't worth the outlay of cash. I did a really nice little con in Winston-Salem that was $100 for a table, and I sold $400. That math doesn't work. If I sell $400 worth of books, well, that $400 worth of books probably cost me $200. And then I paid $100 for the table and probably then some money for gas and some money for lunch. I'm making less than $100 profit on the day. And then I have to reorder all the shit and unpack and pack. It's just not worth it to drive all the way up to Winston and lay out $100 for a table. I've cut way back on the 2-day Comic Cons that I was doing, because for those, especially the ones that are far enough away that they require 2 nights in a hotel, I need to get to $750, $800 before I feel like I'm making anything worthwhile at those conventions, and that's really hard to do with paperbacks at a comic book con. So, because I don't have the big ticket items, the big collectible items where selling one $500 comic book makes a big difference in your weekend. I don't have any $500 hardcovers. Maybe I should. But I really enjoy the Heroes MiniCon. I used to work for Heroes Aren't Hard to Find way back in the day. That's the shop that puts it on. I love Shelton Drum, the guy who runs it. I love Carla, the woman who handles table placement and all of that. They're great folks. So I had a good day. I sold a couple $100 worth of books. It was in town. It cost me practically nothing to do the show. Saw some friends, talked to some people about Contagion coming up. Not a whole lot to report there, except Grady Cole Center, still a shithole. Watched two different guys within 5 minutes walk right into the ladies' room because the signage was that bad. See, as you're walking towards the restroom, there's no signage. The sign on the wall just says restroom. Ladies is on the door. They had the door propped open. I don't know why they propped open the door to the bathroom in a public facility, but they did. So the door was propped open. And guys are walking and they see, oh, restroom. Boop, whoa, and out they go. Yeah, so that was funny. After a little while, the woman who was next to me at the table next to me just got up and closed the door. And then somebody from the building came by and opened the door again, because that's what happens. All right, I've been yammering at you guys for a little over half an hour, and I've got shit to do tonight, so I'm going to go do stuff. You go buy my shit. Next up is Contagion, which is February 9th. It's here in Charlotte. After that is South Carolina Comic-Con in March. So, till then, y'all be good to one another, all right?